Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transform Now. I'm Brad Hairston,
And I'm Michael Marchuk.
and this is our weekly pulse check, taking a look at what's going on in the world of automation and AI. Michael, how you doing?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Well, we have three interesting articles as usual. Let's jump right into the first one. It comes to us from Fast Company. The title is "The First Wave of AI Innovation is Over. Here's what comes next." So, Michael, what did you think about this article?
Well, I thought it was interesting. It covered a couple different topics. First one was as we get to this S curve of innovation, using the publicly available data and maybe data sets that these firms have available to them. We're kind of reaching a plateau as the models themselves are capable, but the data that they're training with is lacking or is coming to the end of its capabilities, I guess, usefulness.
Yeah.
And they're saying that basically we need to get more good data into these platforms. And given the fact that most of these companies who are doing this work, especially like a Google or a Meta, they have access to a whole lot of data, and
Mhm.
some of it isn't public. And this article mentioned how Meta has ignored this several times in the past and paid dearly for it, $725 billion in fines.
Mhm.
Um, but they have a boatload of this data, and they mentioned that companies like Salesforce now are changing the way that their customer data sharing policies are. So I would expect that we're going to see this from these platforms having these changes in the way that the data privacy is being used. Maybe they won't specifically name or identify us, but they're
Mhm.
probably going to use a lot of the data in our interactions, whether that's posts on Facebook or Instagram or whatnot. Or perhaps again, more going back to some of the stuff that they've trained right now on Reddit and others. They'll be taking those private data sets to help train the models in a better way. Now, we've already seen this in LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've had, and many of our listeners probably have had questions asking them, hey, you've been selected to answer this question about fill in the blank topic, whatever. And it
Right.
comes up with a question, and they sort of gamify it to allow you to answer those questions and get a
Mhm.
badge for doing so. And in doing that, you are training the models that they're using based on the questions and the answers that you provide. So it's an interesting way of going about it. And I see this as a kind of way forward. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to me that we're only, year and a half, 2 years in to this whole Gen AI cycle, and data has surfaced as the major constraint. I think we all kind of knew that that would play a big role, but the idea, as this article suggests, that it's the lack of good training data that is basically diminishing the effectiveness of large language models.
Right.
That's fascinating to me when you think about, these things being trained on the entire internet. So I think it's really interesting, and it also relates heavily to this whole idea of, should companies own their own models? Should they?
Right.
I think we agree they should definitely leverage their own proprietary data in a safe and secure way. That just makes the value of Gen AI much broader. But should they actually own their own models? I think you and I've had this conversation just this week.
Just recently, yes.
And so this article seems to be in favor of that idea. The fact that not only do companies themselves have the data they need to make it better, but they really need to own the models and deploy them themselves to stay in control.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I really equate this to imagine this as current Gen AI models are
Mhm.
college graduates that just freshly graduated from school,
Yeah.
and a company hires them in. What's the very first thing that happens, right? They teach them what we do at this company. Thank you for joining this company. We're so excited you're here. Let's train you now on what you're going to be doing here at this company, using their company processes, their company
Mhm.
data. It's very normal for us to do that
Right.
with people who are coming out of college. We expect them, even those who aren't coming out of college, when you transfer jobs from one to another, same
Mhm.
thing. We know you understand, but here's how we do it here. And here's the
Yeah.
way our systems work. And here's how the data works within our systems. I foresee that we're going to see the same kind of things happening with Gen AI, where
Yeah.
we're bringing the college freshmen Gen AI. I mean, they've already talked how many times about how, ChatGPT can pass the bar
Mhm.
exam and these other things. Uh, that's just the first part, right? Just like us
Right.
graduating from school, university, we have our diploma. We've learned how to learn, and now
Mhm.
we're going to learn how this company is going to make use of that. So I really think
Right.
this is a very good analog for how we're looking at going forward. Is
Yeah.
you're bringing the capabilities from the generative AI in, and you're
Mhm.
matching them up with the way your organization operates to really get the most benefit from it.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the next article. It's more kind of future of work oriented. It comes from Big Think, and it's titled "More Accountants Are Leaving the Field Than Joining. What's Going On?" And this video on this site features a professor from DePaul University, and she's bringing up some really interesting statistics that over the last 2 years, 300,000 accountants have left the field, and less students are choosing accounting as a major. Fewer people are taking the CPA exam. So she gives a lot of interesting factual data that would suggest that people are abandoning this field. So what did you think about the article or the video when you listened to it?
Well, a couple things came to mind. So back in the day, when I was going to university, one of my roommates was going to be an accountant. In fact, he was preparing for the CPA as we were finishing our last year of school.
Uh-huh.
And for him, he was primarily doing it because he wanted to get a good, stable job. That was his primary good thing. And he was good at math, and his personality kind of lent itself towards that kind of field. And
Right.
I know that's a very broad generalization. I apologize for all you accountants who also DJ on the weekends. But generally speaking, many of the accountants would have this affinity for working with numbers and working in these kind of spreadsheet environments and be very happy doing so.
Mhm.
I think perhaps that same kind of personality may be drawn to a different type of work now. Maybe they're going more toward data science
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something else. So I think it's the potential is that the personalities or the people who would normally be drawn into this accounting field
Yeah.
may now have different options to them that offer that same kind of longer term outlook without the same kind of draw that maybe being within that CPA field had for
Yeah.
them or would have for them if those other options didn't exist.
So you're being too kind. My very harsh criticism of this video and this professor is she never once mentions automation and AI as
Yeah.
having a potential impact on accounting. And I think there's been good evidence to support the idea that this is one of the fields that is being impacted
Yeah.
heavily by automation and AI. And I think there was a McKinsey report a couple years ago that looked out in the future and looked at jobs and what roles are going to exist and which ones are going away. And accounting was not a big part of the future that they see. And it doesn't mean it goes away completely, but I think it is one of the more rule-based jobs
Yeah.
that's out there. And
I
automation,
think
and then with the AI now in the mix, I mean, it can do a lot
I
of
think
that.
there's a combination here. So there's the mechanics of accounting, which I believe
Yeah.
AI and automation play a very heavy role in. Then there's the strategic analysis of the numbers and
Mhm.
the support of a business model that a trained CPA and accountant can help support guiding the business. So I
Right.
think the way that there is, just like with anything else, like, we start talking about before we had a steam shovel, we had need for so many people with shovels to be able to
Mhm.
dig these ditches. And now, those are all going away, and
Yeah.
they're leaving the industry here to become these operators of these machinery. And what's going to happen to this whole field of ditch diggers? The reality is, they're changing because the world is changing. So
Mhm.
while there may not be as many people that need to be accountants from a mechanical perspective of doing debits and credits to the general ledger.
Right.
There will likely be needs for people to be strategic accountants
Mhm.
that are drawn into the way they help run a business. And I think that's the difference, is that you don't need as many of those
Mhm.
if, in fact, all of the rest of the activities are automated through AI and automation.
Yep. Agreed. Well, our last article comes from the Washington Post, and it's titled, Tesla Sells Self-Driving Cars. Is it fraud? So, interesting article. What did you think, Michael? Is Tesla leading people astray with the way they're marketing their self-driving capability? What do you think?
I saw in the article, there are a couple attorneys who kind of make their points for things, and I would tend to agree with one of them who's saying, what would a reasonable person say is fully self-driving versus what would a marketing person say about the capabilities of their product, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, marketing people say this is fully self-driving, which is accurate if you talk about a very narrow set of rules related to if you're on a highway and these conditions are met and you touch the steering wheel occasionally just to show that you're still alive and not sleeping. This is fully driving. It can drive itself. It can do that without any further impact with you. It can change lanes. It can do things as necessary, blah, blah, blah. That's a very good way of producing that outcome of fully self-driving. Whereas the public may think, I literally could sit in the back seat of my car and take a nap while my car finds its way to my next destination without any input from myself. In fact, at one point, we had Elon Musk saying, next year we'll be able to drive from California to New York without having to touch the wheel. And I'm not sure that's, first of all, it's accurate. Certainly it's not accurate. But also, is it something that it's also probably not realistic too from a battery life perspective. It's going to have to find some kind of way to recharge it. Those two coasts. But it's also something that the public, I'm not sure is desirous of. Perhaps maybe for long haul truckers or something else. But as people are driving super long distances, we may need more brakes than the car does to be able to stop for sightseeing, for food, for biological breaks. I mean, that's just reality. And so self-driving, I think within some narrow sets is accurate. I don't think it's fraud. I just think that the definitions of what a reasonable person would say is self-driving are still very murky.
Yeah, and the article does cite, the 12 people, I think, or excuse me, 24 people have died by trying to use the self-driving features in the Tesla, like a 100% automated self-driving car, and have died as a result. So that's unfortunate. Clearly this is different than what is now accessible in markets like San Francisco and Phoenix, and now in Austin with Waymo. They're I think 30 days in on having their cars operational. I talked to one person a couple weeks ago who's actually been in one, and he was describing the experience to me. So it is becoming a reality, and I know Tesla wants to get into this whole realm. I think they have their own robo taxi, which they hope to launch. They said this year. Who knows if that's going to happen? But it is interesting in 2019 they're marketing it.
2019, Elon Musk said they're going to have 1 million of them on the road by 2020. So you tell me whether or not it's realistic. I don't know if they're ever going to have them, but I suppose it's aspirational nonetheless.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, thanks for joining us. It's been fun talking through these headlines in the area of automation and AI. Please be sure and listen to our other podcasts that we publish each week with an amazing guest, and we will see you next time.
Like and subscribe.